Hey everyone, and welcome to A Question to the Teacher. In this series, we're going to ask and try to answer some of the questions that I wish I would have known to ask when I was starting out teaching. And here's our question for the day. Hey everybody, it's February 5th, 2018, Super Bowl Monday here in Korea. And our question for today comes from one of my favorite followers, Steven. How's it going, buddy? His question is, how do you keep the volume in your classroom under control when you're doing a speaking activity? I have a system in place that keeps the volume of my classroom exactly where I want it. It's pretty simple, pretty easy, and I can teach it to you in 3 words. It starts up here. There's a scale of the classroom voice. In our classroom, there's about 3 volumes that we want to hear. We want to hear silent, quiet. We want to hear a regular classroom conversation. And then when we want to build up the energy, when we want to increase the excitement, we go to a shout. So what I do is I draw this line on the board. When students come into the classroom, they see the line on the board, and they see these 3 pictures. And we'll go over some words that we can think of. We might think quiet, we might think silent, we might think be quiet or no talking. But I'll introduce the concept to them, the word whisper, and we'll have them practice. I'll go over the word whisper, whisper, and then I'll give them some words to whisper. Some silly words, some easy words, some more difficult words, some sentences, and we'll go through it together. I might say, whisper your name, like this. 3, 2, 1, Bryan. Students get a chance to hear exactly what I want a whisper to sound like. Because remember, in your classroom, words have the meaning that you give them. A whisper to a student and a whisper to a teacher might be 2 very different things. The next thing I'll work my way up to is talk. Now this is what we'll use in activities where students are talking to the teacher, where I'm asking questions and they're answering. We might also use this range of voice in a group activity where in a whole class there might only be 5 or 6 people talking at a time. It might sound something like this. Talk, 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 talk. I'll show them a range of acceptable volume for a talk. We might say, tell me your favorite ice cream flavor in a talk voice. 3, 2, 1, strawberry. Tell me it in a whisper. 3, 2, 1, strawberry. Simple as that. Then finally we'll move on to the most fun, but also the one that you want to use most sparingly, right? A shout should only be used when you really want students to give it their all. Because a shout to a student and what you might want to hear as a shout are never going to be the same. But you want to practice this because sometimes you want students to shout. You might be singing a song. You might be doing a call and response. You might be just trying to get students back into the classroom, back into the activity, back and focused on what you want. So I use a shout like this, call and response. I teach my students a call of AB, and they say CD. So I'll call AB, and students will say CD at that voice. And I'll go through with a shout, a talk, and a whisper. It might sound like this. Okay, students, let's shout it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now let's talk it. Yummy, yucky. Okay, now let's whisper it. A, B, 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 B. And I'll practice this for about 3 to 5 minutes so that I know they've got it down pat. And once I see that they're able to understand what a classroom voice sounds like, I'll have this on the board for about the next 2 weeks of classes so that I can easily refer to it and say, okay, today we're going to do partner work. We're going to have a little conversation with one another, but I want you to whisper. Today we're going to do a group game, and I want you to talk. Today we're going to play a PowerPoint game from the television, and I want you to shout your answers. After about 2 weeks, I'll erase the words and I'll just leave the pictograms. This way I can say, let's shout, or let's talk. Finally, let's whisper. By the end of the first month of class, those pictures are gone as well. And I'll talk to my students as I would talk to you. Say, all right, students, now we're gonna whisper. We're gonna play this game in a whisper voice. Partner up, 3, 2, 1, whisper. The good part about teaching this classroom voice on a scale is that when I'm monitoring my classroom, all I need to do is look at a student who is off the scale and bring them back. Whisper, please. I don't have to say, please be quiet or lower your voice, because sometimes students don't know what that means. When I say be quiet, their definition of quiet might be different. But when I say whisper, everybody knows what I mean. So, if you use this skill in your classroom, I guarantee you'll be able to manage the volume of your class much more easily and much more efficiently. So remember, shout, talk, and whisper.